After spending a nice weekend relaxing at the beach, Biden returned to the White House yesterday with multiple foreign affairs headaches on his plate. Today, the president was at the UN General Assembly in New York, but can he smooth things over? Let's bring in former State Department spokesperson and principal at Rubicon Founders, Morgan Ortagus. Before we get on a list of foreign affairs issues Biden is facing, let's listen, Morgan, to what he had to say on the importance of allies earlier this year.
The message I want the world to hear today: America is back. America is back. Diplomacy is back at the center of our foreign policy. America and alliances are our greatest asset. And leading with diplomacy means standing shoulder to shoulder with our allies and key partners.
Morgan, you were a senior official in the Trump State Department. I was unaware that diplomacy was gone.
Yeah, and I think that the French would have a lot to say this week about diplomacy. They are fuming mad, and you saw something happen this week that never happened in the Trump administration, and that's that the French French government got so angry that they recalled their ambassador. Now, I'm for what Biden and the administration is trying to do with what we call AUKUS, which is another silly government acronym that you know all too well, Buck, right? UK, Australia, US. Listen, this is a really important alliance, but the way that some of the diplomacy has gone down in the administration over the past few months actually has brought for a rather cool reception from President Biden towards President Biden at UN General Assembly this week. We still have a lot of European allies who are incredibly angry about the lack of consultation and the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. And we're now potentially on the precipice of seeing the world's largest terrorist state in Afghanistan. So it wasn't really the homecoming that I think Biden perhaps expected at UNGA this week, which sort of, I think, makes sense for sort of the unremarkable speech that he delivered today.
I just want to know, can you tell everybody what happened with this French nuclear Australian submarine situation? Because it is a big deal for them to pull their ambassador. That's not something that happens every day.
It is. You know, there's a lot of finger pointing going on. There's a lot of Americans saying, well, the Australians were supposed to tell them. And of course, you know, there's been reporting, and again, I don't know if it's accurate, but there's been reporting that the French have actually accused us, the Americans, of lying whenever they asked about the submarine deal. Taking all of that aside, again, an alliance and a stronger partnership with the United Kingdom and Australia on security measures, especially as it relates to the threat of the Chinese Communist Party, that's crucially important. But as we learned in Afghanistan, execution is just as important as good ideas, right? So it's a great idea, but if you piss off all the allies in Europe that you're trying to bring along on this, sort of existential geopolitical struggle against the Chinese Communist Party, if you lose them along the way, you've again had a great idea with really bad execution.
So it's been more than a month, and Americans, alongside translators and their Afghan allies, are still stuck in Afghanistan. There was this whole, it was Trump's fault moment. You remember this, I'm sure, with the Biden administration saying, we inherited this timeline and, it's Trump's fault. I mean, that's basically what it came down to. Well, what's the response that people should know to that talking point? And then also, what should we be thinking about now that the Biden team still has folks who are behind Taliban lines?
Well, the American people are not stupid, and they know that the president has been in charge since January, and obviously they know that it's his decision. He said in April that he was taking responsibility, that he wanted to get America out no matter what. So again, American people aren't stupid. You know, they understand that this was his plan and his administration's failure of execution. He didn't inherit our plan and our timeline, or at least he didn't act upon those, because the Trump timeline had a conditions-based withdrawal, getting everybody out in May. The Biden administration decided to not go with that timeline and not to have a conditions-based approach. And Buck, I think that is the crucial point. As Biden and his team said, we are getting American troops, all of them, out of Afghanistan, no matter what happens, no matter what the consequences are. And what Mike Pompeo and his team negotiated was a full drawdown, but conditions-based, meaning that the Taliban was going to have to prove that it had broken with Al Qaeda and that they were going to have to negotiate with the current government of Afghanistan, with civil society, with women to form an inclusive political settlement and inclusive government. We never had in the cards that the Taliban could militarily take over the country and that we would allow that to happen. That's a big difference. They knew Trump would never allow that to happen, and they clearly knew that Biden would.